Welcome to Rooted in Retirement with Zach Gray, founder of Rooted Wealth Advisors. Zach and the team help families here in Illinois plan successfully for retirement. They strive to understand all of your financial needs to help guide you on the path to your ideal retirement. This is Rooted in Retirement.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy Sharp, alongside Zach Gray, the founder of Rooted Wealth Advisors. We'll talk about the importance of protecting your income in retirement. Plus, do you have a plan to keep your retirement on track no matter what happens on Wall Street? If you're not sure, stay tuned for Zach's top tips. And later we'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions. And Zach, it is great to be back with you as always.
I'm excited to be here with you.
Got a little question, a little prop for you today.
Okay.
Do you know what this is?
Boy, I think I know what that is, and it's been a little while
Your
since
grandfather
I've seen
maybe have one of these?
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
For the pocket, right?
The pocket protector. This is the pocket protector that a lot of men would put in their shirts and to protect from the ink getting on there. You know, we talk about protection and all the ways that we protect things in our lives, whether it be our kids wearing helmets when they go out and ride a bike, smoke detectors for our homes, seat belts in cars. And then when you think about something as trivial as protecting our pockets, why is it so difficult, or is it possible to protect our income once we get to retirement? That's our topic today. It's a big one, really.
It is. And I think that income is definitely what we're chasing after in retirement, because retirement without a paycheck, it just doesn't feel all that right. And so we have to figure out, where's that income going to come from, and thus, can we protect it? And I tend to think of protecting your income with, what are the non-negotiables, right? What are the things that we just know that we're going to have to pay day in, day out, month in, month out, year in, year out? And that could be property taxes, it could be food to put on the table, utilities, things like that. If nothing else, I think we need to find a way to protect those items, those non-negotiables. Now, of course, we can make decisions to upgrade the car, take the grandkids on a trip, whatever the case is, and maybe that is the other end of that spectrum. That's kind of a choice, right? But those non-negotiables of life, let's find a way to protect that income so that we can at least pay those bills, keep the wheels turning, and be comfortable in retirement.
So if I were to ask you a clear definition of protected income, would you lean towards the non-negotiables? That's how you would address it?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that building cash flows then that will basically support that budget, right? And start to say, well, okay, what do I have coming from maybe a pension? What do I have coming from Social Security? What do I have if I have maybe farm ground or rental income, something like that? What is that bottom line cash flow? And now, do I have a shortfall? Because if so, I think we need to fill that. We can do that a lot of different ways. You can be pulling from a portfolio on a monthly basis. We can build the portfolio that way. Annuities can be a great option for that are guaranteeing some of that cash flow that we need and making sure to pay that shortfall that we have. So, but keep in mind, what is the non-negotiable, then what's the fun stuff? I think we definitely need to cover those non-negotiables month in, month out, year in, year out.
Okay, interesting report from the Alliance for Lifetime Income saying that the number of protected households is on the rise at 40%. But what that means, of course, is that 60% of us, Zach, are not protected. And if I'm facing, and if I'm in that maybe category, what are some of the challenges that I'm facing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just not having the clarity and the confidence that you need to have to be retired. And I know that that's a lot to say and a lot maybe more to even take in, but what I would tell folks that are out there watching us is to say, okay, if you're a part of that 40% that's protected, you've got more than enough cash flow coming in, boy, you sleep really well at night. And the other 60%, I think that that's a little bit like, jumping on a plane and not having extreme clarity of, where you're headed, right? Because all of a sudden you go, well, I guess I can pull it from there. And then there's a secondary question of, okay, well, if you're going to pull it from, say, that account, this or that account, then how is that built? Is it built the right way? Does it do well only in good times? What happens if times aren't always great? Then what happens to your cash flow? I'm really passionate about that because of my grandmother. It's sequence of return risk for those that are out there watching and want the technical title to it. But if we're pulling money at good times in the market, that's fine. We're maybe just pulling cream off the top. But when the market goes down, that's when things are critical to understand. That's when it's critical to be protected, to your point. Because then at that point, we can have the confidence to say, you know what, the market is down, but I'm not needing to pull from my investments right now. I can stay away from it maybe till things bounce back. Or we can at least rest assured to say, you know what, I'm okay. You know, I'm not necessarily loving the fact that my portfolio might be kind of adjusting with the market, but you know what, I know month in, month out, or year in, year out, day in, day out, I'm going to be in an okay spot. And I think that confidence that breeds to someone's retirement really allows them to enjoy it, because they're not on, you know, thin ice wondering, okay, am I okay this month or am I not? Do I have to rely on the markets or don't I? So that's why I think building an income plan that's as solid as we can make it, building around volatility, building around inflation, all of these, you know, things that are a key component to the process here at my firm, I think that is so critical to someone's success.
It seems so clear listening to you talk, and we don't have a lot of time in this segment, but I know a lot of people just don't maybe have that clarity when they come to you. They don't have an understanding of what protected income looks like.
Yeah, I think many people don't have a clear understanding of even what their budget is, let alone how they're going to support that budget. And that's really a large part of where our conversation starts. Our rooted retirement process is not just X's and O's, and it's not numbers on a paper. It's, okay, Amy, what do you need to be happy? And how does that look for you and your husband, for example? Or obviously if it's a single person, we're tailoring that directly back to one person. But the point is, it starts with a conversation, and then from that point, we start to build a plan that's as solid as we can make it and starts to navigate through some of these things such as sequence of return risk, volatility in the market, inflation, taxes. All these pieces have to be a part of this big comprehensive plan that we can really distill down to something that's easy to understand, and we're really proud of that.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much. Protected income may be important, but how do you know what kind is right for you? We discuss that next. Plus, what would you do if the market took a dip? Would your retirement stay on track? If you're unsure, stay tuned for Zach's tips. We're back in a moment.
You know you want to retire. You might even know when you want to retire. What you don't know is what the world will look like. A short market drop, a crash, a recession. What if I told you these words don't have to change your retirement dreams? World events can impact your retirement, but thankfully, they don't have to. Can your retirement survive the unexpected? Visit the link to find your risk score to help you prepare for retirement when you're ready. It's time for you, not outside forces, to be in control of your retirement. Find your risk score so you can be ready no matter what comes next.
Hi, it's Zach Gray from Rooted Wealth Advisors. If you're like many people, you might be wondering if you're ready for retirement. Have you saved enough? How much income will you need? When can you retire? Planning for retirement can feel overwhelming. That's why we created our Retirement Roadmap Toolkit. It's designed to give you the resources to gain confidence as you start your journey to and through retirement. Visit the link today to get your free toolkit. At Rooted Wealth Advisors, we believe you deserve to have a great retirement. Visit the link to receive your free kit today.
Welcome back to Rooted in Retirement with Zach Gray of Rooted Wealth Advisors.
We've been talking about the importance of protected income, a big topic, since running out of income in retirement is a huge fear for many. And I'm back with Zach Gray of Rooted Wealth Advisors. It really is a big topic, and you really focus in on clarity and confidence when it comes to your clients, kind of the 3 C's, if you will. And I think that's so critical, because what I want to really get into now is how you help give them that confidence at Rooted Wealth Advisors, what that process looks like.
Well, you led with something about, making sure we have protected income so we don't run out. And there's often times that we have folks that call into the show or call into our radio show or maybe even see us speak at a library or maybe even a dinner workshop of sorts. And I'll ask them, hey, what is your number one concern that they have? And the top ticket item is running out of money. I don't want to run out. And I'm thinking about this years ago. So some of the watchers might know that I have a cattle business. I've kind of positioned out of that over the years, but still have my hand in a little bit of that business. And I remember driving to Nebraska. And I think you know a little something about Nebraska.
I have a little bit of knowledge of that place, yes.
So we passed a gas station. It's late at night, and I'm thinking, we'll hit the next one, right? And there's no next one that keeps coming, right? Like, we're in the sand hills of Nebraska. It's dark. It's late. We never been through there before.
Talk about fear.
Yeah. And I think the gas gauge keeps going down and down and down. and we're going, oh boy. Like, I mean, and before you know it, like your anxiety is up. You're wondering, how does this, play out? And thankfully, the end of that story is we roll in on fumes to a gas station. It was only by some prayers that were answered. But I think that being said, if anyone's ever been in that situation or has ever ran the car out of gas, which sadly I have done, I don't mean to, kind of confess that to everyone watching. I think it's important though to understand that it goes back to income, protected income that we've been speaking of. It allows us to have this peace of mind, this confidence, this clarity, like some C words that I use from time to time in terms of how our retirement looks. We might not have excess in that particular time if the market's really volatile or it's down to do fun extra things. That wouldn't probably be the time, but it does allow us to say, you know what, we're in good shape. And we visited with a lot of folks over the years. I've been in this business for almost a couple decades now. And those that have enough pension money, throw in a little Social Security. Maybe they have a property or two that give them some sort of rental or farm ground rental type income. I'm not saying that they don't care, but they definitely don't have that anxiety about their investments, right? They of course care about them, and we care, about that as well, right? It's obviously what we do, but I think it's so important for people to understand that if they don't have to be wanting to know month in, month out, is their paycheck okay, because they're protected. I just think that that's a good analogy. It's what it reminds me of, is driving through the sandhills, not knowing if we're going to be okay or not, wondering if I'm going to have to kind of hitchhike it along. I kind of relate that back to protected income and not just being, out there in the abyss of, am I okay or am I not? And I hope that analogy lands with you.
No, it absolutely does. And you should also know that a farmer would have come around at some point and they would have taken care of your gas situation for you.
It was about 1 a.m. in the morning, so it was a little rough.
They had a few more hours of sleep, for
no
sure.
doubt.
Let's talk about taxes, because it's we can't have this conversation without thinking about some of these risks that are out there, and taxes is, of course, a big one right now. And you can have that protected income, but how can taxes impact that?
Well, if taxes go up, and I tend to think that they might over time at least, then at that point, the question is how much gets to land in your purse, Amy? And I think that's really important to understand. So as we start to look at this, if taxes do move upwards, or they take a bigger bite out of your portfolio, or let alone if, tragically, something would happen to you or your husband, now instead of this being a married household, it's down to one single tax-paying household, now that's changed, right? Because in essence, you can hit those bracket breaks with roughly about half the income. So all of a sudden, as we start to think about how do taxes impact our income, well, how big of a bite does the IRS pull for taxes from our portfolio? And how does that look? Especially if we're married, I gave that example. If we're in a widowed position, I don't know how much of our lifestyle gets to change. We still have the real estate taxes and we still have a lot of the bills. The question is there a bigger chunk that goes towards this tax conversation? So critical that folks understand that. And once again, if we think taxes might go up in the future, it's very critical that we understand that we should start to make some moves right now.
Anything else I need to be thinking about when it comes to really building that comprehensive plan? Because there's so many factors that go into it. There's really not even enough time on our show today to go into that. What else do I need to be considering?
I think that I would go back to the 4 pillars of our process. Our rooted retirement process is tied back to income. It's what we've been talking about. Investments, which is many times where the income's going to come from, right? We're going to get that paycheck in retirement from those investments that we've saved over the years. And then as we start to go a little bit further, we like to talk about taxes. It's been a very, very hot topic for some period of time. And then legacy planning. And legacy planning to us is not just leaving money behind to someone, it's healthcare planning. And really, how do we want to live out our life in retirement? How do we want to be remembered? And yes, it does have to take into consideration some estate taxes and how do we give dollars to another generation or to something, someone, some charity. But I think that as we start to pull all those pieces together, that's a process we're really proud of and one that really helps a lot of folks.
Okay, thanks so much, Zach. Great information as always. And when we come back, Zach shows you a plan to help survive market volatility. That's next in this week's Retirement Game Plan.
Social Security. You've been paying into the system your whole career. Now it's time to get the most out of it. But with so many choices, what's the best strategy for you? And how can you maximize your benefits? Find out in this no-obligation Social Security report. Learn how your Social Security benefits can play a role in your overall retirement income plan. A lot of factors go into optimizing your benefits, and if you make an informed decision, you could end up with tens of thousands of extra dollars in retirement. You only get one chance to make the best decision for you. Take the first step and download the Social Security report today.
You're watching Rooted in Retirement with Zach Gray of Rooted Wealth Advisors.
Do all the ups and downs on Wall Street make you nervous? If so, you're not alone. The good news is Zach has a strategy that just might help you feel more confident. Zach?
Thanks, Amy. And in this week's retirement game plan, we are going to talk about those ups and downs. We're going to talk about rate over range. And what I mean by that is that you probably have heard about rates of return. It might be easy to try to figure out what that is. Look at your monthly statement. Maybe that is something that you've sat down with an advisor, or nothing else. Maybe you've pulled it up on your 401k platform to say, how have I done this past week? Or how do performance look over the last month or year even? That being said, if I only gave you two options to only value rate of return at 6.37 in portfolio A versus 5.7 in portfolio B, which would you choose? Chances are you're saying, well, Zach, this is pretty easy. We're going to choose portfolio A. And if that's the only piece of knowledge that we had, chances are, yeah, why not? One's 6.37, one's at 5.7. Pretty clear to understand, well, yeah, one's got a better rate of return. However, what I will tell you is that if you think about average rates of return over time, they come to you based on some good years, maybe some not so great years, and obviously that is what might blend into a 6.37 performance number or a 5.7 performance number. Those ups and downs that I just referenced, we call range. Obviously that can be the jagged line in terms of performance on maybe the week or the month or the year. And at that point in time, we can start to understand what we in the business call standard deviation. How much can your portfolio go up and down over time? Now, what I will tell you is you can see in this quick example that in portfolio A, to that 6.37% rate of return, there's going to be a fair amount of up and down. Now, the good news here is that we've got a better rate of return over time. And that being said, this is going to have some really good, powerful years. In this example, this is an 18-year performance chart. And you can see in best years, we're getting 30-plus performance numbers. However, in those really bad years, we're losing just as much. Now, portfolio B, it doesn't have quite as much ups and downs. It's good years, it's in the teens. It's bad years, or still single digits. That big range that we talk about there is the ups and downs of your portfolio. Now, that is critical to your financial success, and you're going to see why here in a moment. Because once again, portfolio A versus B, it's easy to understand, well, that's a larger number with portfolio A, and so that is why, once again, you might choose that in terms of if that was the only deciding factor. Now, let me tell you this story. If we gave each one of those portfolios $1 million to start, and over time, we did not take any dollars, we let things ride, over time, portfolio A will turn into a $2.4 million portfolio. Here's the irony. That $1 million in portfolio B, with an average rate of return of 5.7, turns into $2.7 million. The reason for this, folks, is that we don't have as much up and down to that portfolio, and thus we're getting more returns over time. It continuously grows that portfolio at a better rate over time. Now, this is critical for something we call sequence of return risk. Now, that's a bit of a mouthful, but I will tell you this. It is very critical to understand what this range of returns is over time if you're near retirement. You're already seeing it in this example if we didn't take anything from the portfolio. Well, how does it look if we're pulling money from it? Let's take a look. Let's assume that we took $50,000 a year from each one of those portfolios. And we did so over that 18-year span that I just gave you the example of, a 6.37 average rate of return, or once again, B at a 5.7. What you're going to notice here in this example is we pull out the same amount of money from the portfolio, but wouldn't you know it that portfolio B has yet over $1 million in the portfolio at the end of that 18-year run, and portfolio A has just over $300,000 at the end of that portfolio run. The point here is this: the range matters just as much as the rate of the returns. And as you start to look at not only rate of return and average rates of return, I think that you might be eye-open to say, you know what, maybe that range is just as important, because it is. Especially as we get near retirement or in retirement, we're in this position that the sequence of which we get those rates of return is very, very important. And once again, that is the point of today's retirement game plan section, is to understand it's not just about rate of return, which can be fun to talk about. It has a lot to do with the range of that return, and that will once again go right back to the health of your portfolio and once again the health of your retirement. Back to you, Amy.
Thanks, Zach. Up next, answers to your retirement questions in our Q&A segment. Stay tuned.
There are some things you can't avoid, but you can avoid overpaying taxes in retirement. You may think your taxes will go down in retirement, but that's not always true. In fact, sometimes your tax liability could go up. We're offering a free guide to show how you may be able to pay fewer taxes in retirement. Learn how different retirement accounts are taxed and options to help make your retirement income more tax efficient, all in easy to understand terms. Download this free tax guide now to help keep what's yours and avoid overpaying taxes in retirement.
Welcome back to Rooted in Retirement with Zach Gray of Rooted Wealth Advisors.
Welcome back, everyone. Now it's time to get to some of the questions you have for Zach. And are you ready for this segment?
Let's give it a shot.
Here we go. Here's our first question for you from Scott in Mahomet. We have a small mortgage on our home. Should we take money from our IRA to pay it off now, or just pay it off over the next 6 years?
My personal opinion would be interest rates are fairly low. I'm going to jump to an assumption here that the mortgage interest rate is going to be at a low point. So if this was credit card debt, then maybe my answer would be different. But I would say at least be thinking long and hard about the tax implications of pulling money from the IRA. Based on age, maybe there's no implications other than just simply paying tax. But you are going to pay ordinary income tax as you pull that money out. So maybe that is going to take a big bite out of there, right? In the case that we are in a, say, 20-some% tax bracket, we're going to have to pay, about, once again, a quarter more, right? Just to pull out and net down what we need to pay that mortgage off. So just be cautious of how much money am I really going to have to pull. Make sure that the IRS has their portion so I can go pay the rest off. And with low interest debt, like a mortgage, everyone's got a different opinion on that. I don't necessarily know that paying it off in a 6-year window or not is going to be the make or break, but I will say there was a comment about 6 years. So chances are at this point, there's not much interest that's working towards a tax deduction. So if in the back of their minds, well, I'm getting a little tax deduction for this, when there's only maybe 2, 4, 6, 8 years left on the mortgage, now all of a sudden that's really shrunk down. So maybe it is at a point where you can start to juggle, well, I can pull this money out, I can withhold some taxes, and I can knock this out. And sometimes, Amy, peace of mind is really all that's about. So,
absolutely. All right, thanks so much, Zach. Next question from Alice in Monticello. I'm 59 now and plan on working until I'm 66. Should I roll over my 401k while I'm still working?
My personal opinion is yes. And I say that because at the age of 59 and a half, it's typically the magical age, which is probably why this question was drafted that way. Of, okay, now I can roll that money out of the 401k. I say that for a few reasons. Number one, we tend to be very fee-conscious advisors. I'm not here to tell you that we're as low cost as someone just investing the money on their own. We bring a lot to the table. We're really proud of that. That being said, many times fees are much more substantial on a 401k platform than what they would be in an IRA platform. So whether that is with Rooted Wealth Advisors or any other fiduciary-based, advisor relationship that this person might know, I tend to think getting that money out of there is a good idea. It will then lead to not only maybe being a little bit less costly, which Every situation's different there, but it will also lead you to the point where we can say a lot more diversification, a lot more options for us to utilize. And if we want to get more intricate with things like conversions and things of that nature, we can take from that traditional IRA, convert it over to a Roth IRA. So much more we can do, Amy.
Okay, here's another one for you. From Marcy in Savoy. My husband and I are fairly conservative with our money. I've been hearing inflation is on the rise. Could there be a way to keep our money growing without taking on too much risk? Here's the inflation one for you.
Yeah,
you knew it was coming, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's been all over the media, and I think that May 20 to May 21 numbers are running like a rolling 5% inflationary number. And that's only one snapshot in time, but as you start to think about summer to summer, how that looked in terms of that window, it's an eye-opener to start to think about, boy, I better keep up with some of this inflation. And you don't have to go much farther than the gas pump or the grocery store to understand that inflation is definitely here, and it always has been. It just, the number looks a little bit bigger. So would I say that, I don't know necessarily getting away from conservative investments in their entirety is correct, but making sure that you have some diversification so you have a little bit more growth-oriented money is so important as we start to plan for what inflation can do.
A lot of people have inflation on their minds as they start to plan for retirement. Here's another question for you from Jose in Danforth. How much money can you inherit without paying inheritance tax?
A little bit of this is state specific, so I will give that disclaimer, as well as the fact that different states have different regulations in terms of portability. So can we have this for Amy and then a separate, estate tax limit for her husband? From a federal side, back in President Trump's era, they lifted those to a much higher point, right? So they more than doubled what we had been expecting, and at this point we're well over $10 million per person if we draft the estate plan the right way. However, there's a lot of chatter about how that could and it might very well change in the near future, bringing those numbers back to a much lower point. So Illinois is a much different situation than what we're talking about at the federal level. And once again, do understand that this is something we have to think about portability. And when I say that, I mean, can Amy once again have hers and her husband have yet a separate? And then once again, back to a state, is that even an option? That is something extremely important. So, we work with clients throughout the country, and so that's why I kind of give a bit of all this disclaimer to say it's really important to understand, where do you live, how are things set up, how much assets do you have, and we can once again go further down that rabbit hole if need be, because legacy, once again, fourth pillar of our rooted retirement process, is so imperative to make sure that you protect all that you've worked so hard for.
Great answers as always. Thanks so much, Zach. I love this segment. And if you have a question, submit it and we may just answer it on a future show. And if you want to know how to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, reach out now to start planning for your ideal retirement. For Zach and the team at Rooted Wealth Advisors, I'm Amy Sharp, wishing you a healthy and happy journey to and through retirement.